publicity machine is on the march again.
Leicester Fan TV presents a variety of content, like fan discussions, match analysis, and engaging with Leicester fans worldwide. We want your views live. Thanks to our sponsors, Everard's, Bolo Blinds, Pocker Pies, Pink Car Leasing, Distillers Direct, Hologram, Take Me, Newbie & Co, and the Foxes Arms and Rainbows. We are live in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome back to Leicester Fan TV for something different today with somebody different who's not been on their channel before. It is a Leeds fan. We've had that before. It is a Leeds fan called Joe. We've had that many of times. But it's not Joe Wayman. It's Joe Blackburn, mate. How are you doing?
I'm the one that can grow hair. How are we doing? I'm pretty good. Yeah. I'm not facial hair, obviously. Yeah. That one I can't do, but I've sacrificed this for this, so it's adds up a little bit.
Absolutely, mate. Well, I thought I was driving. I was just telling Joe I was driving this morning. I thought, you know, it's our season's over. Joe's isn't, but our season's over, and there's not really too much to do at the moment. Except for talking about transfers that will probably never happen. So I thought ahead of, Leeds are relevant at the moment because obviously they have a playoff final coming up in the next few days. So I thought let's get Joe on and let's do something a little bit fun, a Leicester Leeds all-time 11. Now, I did name it all-time 11 in the title, but it's not going to quite be that. We're going to do in our lifetime, what we've seen. So we're going to just set a date from the year 2000. We're going to go from the year 2000. And we'll go from there. We'll see what we come up with. Obviously, Joe's going to have his shouts that he wants to put in there. I'll have mine, and it's a little bit biased, obviously, because any comments that do come in will be Leicester. People arguing for Leicester. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Just before we get into it, though, Joe, mate, tell us about obviously your channel and what type of content you post and what you've got coming up, because I'll forget at the end otherwise.
You can find me if you just search Joe Blackburn. It's quite nice. Probably not on Facebook, which I see you're streaming on, which I didn't even know was a thing. But on YouTube, Joe Blackburn. I do Leedsy stuff. I do general football stuff. Weirdly, those videos seem to do better, but I don't make them because they're less fun. It's a nice time. It's a vibe. I like a bit of optimism over there. So hop along if you're fancying it.
Lovely stuff. And if there are any Football Manager players watching, then Joe does also do a Football Manager stream. Obviously, it's with Leeds, and I think in Joe's alternative universe, Leicester have been relegated. So that's a shame.
You got promoted in the first season.
Yeah. So, oh well. Afternoon to you, Carlos, and afternoon, Baby Zebra Games, which I believe is a person from your end, Joe, mate.
Absolutely.
So that's good. Right, so let's get into it. We're going to go with the 4-4-2. I think it's the easiest, just so that we can. I'm sure we're both going to want to throw a striker in there. I'm sure, I just think it's the easiest thing. It's not letting me put I think I could have added a manager on screen, but it's not letting me now. So let's just discuss the manager real quick. So the candidates from the Leicester side, I suppose you could say, probably the favourite is actually Nigel Pearson. It's probably not Claudio Ranieri. I think if most people could argue, it would be Nigel Pearson just because of how long he spent at the club, over two terms. Got us promoted from League One when we got relegated there, and then obviously won us the Championship to take us into the Premier League. And in our Premier League title winning season, a lot of people say the team, it was a Nigel Pearson team pretty much. He's the one who built the foundations. So Pearson or Ranieri from my side. But over to you, mate. What's your argument? I think I know who your number one argument will be.
Just to check. We're agreed this isn't really a conversation, is it? We know between the two clubs in the last 20 years who the best of the managers has been, right? It's Bielsa. it's unquestionably Marcelo Bielsa. It's the guy who, when he started managing, transformed not only the players underneath him, but an entire generation of coaches under him, who, including Pep Guardiola, including, I think, Simeone, including Pochettino, who are now themselves shaping the football landscape. Football at this very moment is completely different without Marcelo Bielsa. And he brought that to Leeds, and it was absolutely fucking beautiful. I'm assuming I can swear on here. If not, let me know. But it was
You can swear, but just limit it.
I'll limit it. But I think it deserved that, because the Bielsa era, it was something special. It was unique. It was he brought mid-table, bog standard championship players, including Calvin Phillips, who 2 seasons later was England's player of the tournament at the Euros. That's the sort of manager that we're talking about, and I don't think it's a question. I think it has to be Marcelo Bielsa.
Yeah, I think if we're talking about, it's weird when you do things like all-time 11s or combined 11s and things like that. Sometimes it's a bit difficult to actually say what we're basing it off. I think if you were just basing it off their time at our clubs, I think there is more of an argument to be had. But if you're talking about the actual manager in general over his whole career, his influence on, like you said, other managers, I will give you Marcelo Bielsa. I think it's completely fair. Yes, Ranieri did it, but he did it for 1 year. Yes, it was the Premier League, and yes, it was the most magical season that Leicester City will ever have, probably. It was 1 year. Pearson, yes, he was with us for a lot longer, but 2 promotions. I just think Bielsa over his career, he deserves to be the manager. So let's move on to the actual 11, mate. So the goalkeeper. Let's start with the goalkeeper.
Just to clarify,
yeah,
you mentioned a moment ago, are we looking at entire careers of these players, or exclusively when they're at the club? Because I've gone career-wide. Because it's not been, for the most part, a good last 24 years. So I've gone across their entire careers. How have they done as footballers? Because I think that's just a sort of fairer way of assessing it, if that makes sense.
It's a tough one to call, but I'm inclined to go for that as well. I will go for that as well. So I'll let you start us off, mate, with the goalkeeper. I'll let you argue your case.
So the goalkeeper one, I went a little bit off piste. I've got 2 people I want to make an argument for. We've got Nigel Martin, who goal kept in the Champions League fairly consistently, really good performer. So I went down that route as, you know what, he's a pretty good option. He's really good in net. He was at the top tier of club football. Fantastic. And he was loyal to the club. We had a conversation earlier on about how loyalty matters when you're picking players for these sort of things. And I think Nigel Martin's perfect for that. But at the same time, I had a little bit of an inkling. I had a feeling, I had a thought that you might, at some points, go down the avenue of, yeah, but what trophies did they win? So I want to see what you say next. But my retort to, if you're going in the trophies direction, I'm going Scott Carson. He's won Champions Leagues at the top level. He's won European Super Cups. You can't outdo Scott Carson for trophies.
Well, I mean, you know who I'm going to say. I'm going to say Kasper Schmeichel. I am. I think Kasper Schmeichel is, obviously, he's a legend of the club. He was here for 12 years, I think. Obviously, we signed him from, yours truly. And I think, he was never, well, he was the captain actually in his last season, but he was never the true captain, obviously, when Wes Morgan was at the club. But he was one of the most influential members. He was a part of a failed playoff run where we got beat by Watford, the Troy Deeney goal. He then obviously was a part of the team that got promoted to the Premier League. He was, very instrumental in the Great Escape season that we had as well. He was, we would have conceded a lot more goals without him. He obviously won the Premier League with us, gone down in folklore for that. And then, again, he did actually also have offers. I recall that Man United wanted him as backup to David De Gea. And I think, I said this. I mean, we'll get on to obviously what we're going to say. I mean, I said it to you last night actually about Enzo Maresca when I said it because he's linked with he was linked with Sevilla, and I said he actually used to play for Sevilla, so he's clearly got history. Schmeichel has history with Manchester United. We all know that, and he could have easily gone. He could have gone to Man United. He would have got a pay rise. He would have been their backup keeper, and all of that. Obviously, he was a part of the Champions League campaign that we had. He's won trophies at Leicester, I believe. The Championship, Premier League, Community Shield, FA Cup. There's 4 for you, just with Leicester, not with anyone else. And when he left us, it wasn't his decision. It was Brendan Rodgers decided that he didn't want to keep him on at the club. We suffered massively. We went from having Kasper Schmeichel, who I think in the end was a bit underappreciated, because I think goalkeepers can be underappreciated because when you've got it's usually the same man for a long period of time, and when you get used to him, you don't really appreciate him as much. But when he left, oh God, we appreciated him more than ever with Danny Ward coming in, and he's just a horrific goalkeeper. So yeah, I'm not sure on this one, mate. I'm inclined to give it to you just because I think I have stronger claims, and I'm more of I have players who have more of a right in this team than Schmeichel, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So which one do you want to put in, though? You're on mute, mate.
I am on mute because I've been doing some desperate typing because
it's all right.
Interestingly, the person that schedules us for work has me in for 3 shifts on Sunday, and I feel like there might be something that clashes with that one.
Yeah, there's
I think it's got to be Nigel Martin of the two.
Okay.
I put Scott Carson in entirely for the
Martin in case I need to. Right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Just in case I need to sort of rebuke any of your points, sort of thing. But yeah, that's the gist. It's got to be Martin.
Yeah, I'll give it you, mate. I'll give it you. Right, over to the back 4. Let's go right back. So
let's go right back. Okay.
For me, I've done a few of these combined 11s with other different clubs and stuff, and I've done like a whole Leicester City combined 11 before, and a lot of people do tend to say Danny Simpson. Again, because of the title winning season. But for me, there is only one man who goes in here, and it's Ricardo Pereira, in my opinion, because from a Leicester point of view, because he's a much better footballer than Danny Simpson. I think Danny Simpson is, you can argue he's better defensively. However, Ricardo Pereira, I mean, people forget this, and fans from other clubs like to disagree, but it is what it is. Ricardo Pereira, before his ACL injury in 2020, just before COVID, he was top. I don't want to say the best, top 3 or definitely top 5 right backs in the Premier League. He was linked with Man City. He was linked with Chelsea. He was linked with Liverpool at one point. He was scoring goals. He was getting loads of assists, and I said for a long time he is the best footballer at Leicester. When Mahrez left, he is the best footballer at Leicester. I think he's absolute mustard, and I think that shows. When you see him coming into midfield, he's the most capable in our team. Most capable defender of being able to just drop into midfield on the ball. He's class. He's brilliant to watch, and he is still good defensively. He's not the player he was, despite what some Leicester fans will say. He's not the player he was in 2020 before his ACL injury, but he is the right back that I am nominating for this team. So you can give me yours now.
Okay. There is a good reason I clarified whether or not we're including just time at our clubs or time in general.
Okay.
Because that changes my answer.
Okay.
Because if we're including time in general, if we're including them as wider footballers, I'm going Ben White. Because in his time at Arsenal, he has been spectacular. And although I think he's transformed from nice guy that likes Calvin Phillips and they're good friends to bit of a prick, I can't sort of turn away from the fact that he is an obscenely good footballer who has been like such a fundamental part of driving the Arsenal side forwards to genuine title shouts in comparison to where they were a while ago, which was just sort of stumbling along, hoping for Europe sometimes.
Okay.
But yeah, that's why I had to clarify, because I was sort of like, well, he wasn't hugely a right back for Leeds, but then again, he's evolved so much since into something completely different that I can't get away from that, really.
Okay, well, I am going to make a decision here, and I'm putting Ricardo Pereira in over Ben White.
I thought you would,
I mean,
yeah.
There is no, yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying. Maybe Ben White's ceiling. I mean, how old is he now? 24.
I want to say
Is he a bit older? Is he
maybe 20. I'll have a Google for you. Ben White is currently 26.
26. Yeah. Okay. If he was younger, I would think about it maybe a little bit more. You know, maybe a higher ceiling. Obviously, he's not in his prime yet.
But if we're talking heights of ceilings, I genuinely think Archie Gray will turn out to be a better player than Ricardo Pereira.
Yes, but I'm talking about, have they done
He's not
it
there yet,
now?
but...
And have they done it already? And what is their ceiling? I was trying to think of for Ben White, but I think Ricardo Pereira, especially before COVID, he was unreal. I mean, that Ricardo Pereira, in my opinion, gets in ahead of Ben White now at Arsenal. That Ricardo Pereira, that version of him.
Yeah, I think peak Ricardo Pereira probably beats current Ben White, but the question is, where is Ben White's peak?
Where is Ben White going to go? And I still think that summer we would have lost him to a bigger club if it weren't for his ACL. You know, so it's a shame for him, but it is what it is. It's probably a good thing for Leicester, if anything, because we've kept him for so long. Right, centre backs, mate. I will let you go first for this one. Let's start one at a time. So who's your first centre back nomination?
One at a time. That's the thing. I've now got 3 nominees because I genuinely think I could give Ben White another shot in here. But I think first nominee, and if we're going entirety of their time in football, as much as Leeds fans don't like him anymore, I don't think you can really look that far past Rio Ferdinand. Record transfer fee at the time that he moved to the other place. Top tier centre back. Yeah. I'm not entirely sure that there's a conversation around him being one of the 2 or 3 best centre backs that have played for either of the clubs in the past 24 years. I don't think that's a question. I think he just has to go in there.
I mean, I'm doing it straight away. Yeah, I'm doing it straight away. There is, I don't think there is an argument to be had there. I'm not going to sit here and say, you know, where's Morgan over Rio Ferdinand? Obviously, it's not going to happen. So, that I think is going to be my. It's tough, him or that's going to be my one. I think I'm gonna nominate Wes Morgan for this one. Again, you know, obviously he's not the most technically gifted centre back. You know, I mean, with how centre backs and defenders in general now are, they have to be good with their feet. You know, and maybe a little bit of pace to them. Whereas Wes Morgan was the complete opposite. It's like he was your typical, no nonsense centre back alongside Robert Huth. We had 2 of them, obviously, when we won the Premier League. He's a nomination. Leicester fans will argue Steve Walsh. They'll argue Matt Elliott or whoever. You know, some will argue Harry Maguire, who was very good at Leicester, granted. But I'm going to say Wes Morgan again. Partly because of the trophies, loyalty probably wasn't wanted anywhere else, to be honest. But the time at the club, the longevity, you know, I think he was one of the first out of the title winners. He was one of the first to join. I think it was the same season as Schmeichel. So I'm going to nominate Wes Morgan. It's up to you if you want to argue if you feel that strongly, or if you want to take the one each at the centre back pairing.
You see, I think this isn't the toughest of arguments. I think I can genuinely win this one because my other candidate, I'm going to go Jonathan Woodgate. Jonathan Woodgate at Leeds United since
you argue
he was...
it. Give me 1 second. You argue it.
Absolutely. Jonathan Woodgate at Leeds United since the age of, I believe, 16, moved to us from Middlesbrough. At the club for 104 appearances, including countless Champions League nights. We've fallen over. a fantastic pairing alongside Rio Ferdinand. I would argue he is a significant part of why Rio Ferdinand looked so good when he was in that side. And on the loyalty point, I know you could, in theory, make an argument that he moved away from Leeds United with just 104 appearances or something. That wasn't his choice. That was Leeds United were forced to sell players because of Ridsdale, and he was seen as the jewel in the crown. We had to sell for any money that we could get at that point to sort of desperately try and stay afloat as a club. So it's not only a case of he is a fantastic player who played for Leeds in the Champions League. He got himself a move to Real Madrid, but the only reason he left the club was to save the club. And whilst appearances shows loyalty, I don't think there's much that shows any further loyalty than moving away from a club that you've supported in order to save it, because you're sort of sacrificing what you want in order to get the longevity of a football club in that case. So I think he has the quality. I think he has the loyalty. I think he just makes sense as a choice here. And I think you've got a fairly tough argument if you want to say that Wes Morgan's a better centre-back than Jonathan Woodgate.
Well, I completely forgot about Jonathan Woodgate, if I'm honest with you. I did completely forget that he even existed, mate. I'm not going to lie. I am more than happy to put Jonathan Woodgate in this team, if I'm honest with you. I'm not going to argue it. I don't think I can argue it, if I'm honest with you. So that's why I'm not going to bother. So,
very fair.
Yeah, Jonathan Woodgate is going right in there. Left back, mate. Over to the left back. I'm a bit limited, really. There's no way I'm going to even nominate Ben Chilwell because I just don't like him. He was never a good defender. He's good going forwards, but he had probably 2 good years at Leicester. The second year, you could argue, wasn't even that good. The person I'm going to nominate is Christian Fuchs. Again, from that year, the Premier League winning season. He played a couple of years after that, 3 years maybe after that as well. He played for Schalke, had some Champions League appearances as well before, a few Champions League campaigns before that. Austrian national team, many appearances. So Christian Fuchs, I'm nominating. Over to you, mate.
I'm going back to the wonderful little Champions League era at Leeds United. I am going to go with Dominic Matteo. Signed with Leeds United from Liverpool. 127 appearances there, 115 appearances for Leeds. Is another player that very much loved being at the club. He played for us on European nights. Is still sung about to this day for his goal at the San Siro. That has a couple of other descriptors in there that I am not going to be using because family friendly. And again falls under the category of only left the club because we were in the Ridsdale situation. We were in the, oh no, we need money now. So he's another player that I reckon would have stuck around for an extended period of time. And I'm going to have a very quick skim of what I was reading. Never mind, I've lost it. He did also captain the side, which is massively important. And yeah, he's one of those players that would have stayed for a longer period, I feel, but definitely has the quality to be in this team and definitely has sort of that cultural impact to be a part of the team, especially if we're still singing about him 20 years after he left the club. I think he makes it in over Christian Fuchs. Plus, Fuchs is that's just a funny name. Like,
it is.
You don't want
Ian
someone
Hart,
to look at your team and
Leeds
laugh.
fan suggested. Danny suggests Ian Hart or Tony DeRigo.
Ian Hart was also on my list of potential options, but as was Junior Firpo. That's because I love him. But eventually, I landed on Dominic Matteo just because I feel like he's had more of an impact at the club.
Well, I'm going to give you Matteo as well. Leicester fans will not be happy with me because I'm not really arguing too much here. But I don't think Christian Fuchs. I don't feel strongly enough about Christian Fuchs to argue his case. Granted, I'm not the most knowledgeable on Matteo. I obviously never saw him play, and to be honest with you, I've heard of him, but I don't know too much about him. So I will trust you on this one, and I will go Dominic Matteo. Over to the midfield, right-hand side, the right wing, should we call it? There is only one player going in here, in my opinion, and it is.
I would like to have a negotiation.
You can argue. There is only one answer. You can argue though. I'm looking forward to hearing it. Riyad Mahrez is in there for me. Magic. Probably the most technically gifted player, Leicester player ever. We signed him from Le Havre in France. He came in halfway through a championship-winning season where Anthony Kondogbia and Lloyd Dyer were the wingers who were undroppable. Mahrez came in, played a handful of a pit sub games, and then he started straight away after that. After he impressed, the next season, yes, he was hit and miss in our first year back in the Premier League. Although he did come up with magic moments to get us a few goals, and then the year after, I mean, I think Vardy won the Football Writers Player of the Season, and Mahrez won the PFA Player of the Season, the Premier League PFA Player of the Season. Goals, assists, everything, in my opinion, that he has to him. Probably not the quickest though, but he didn't need it. Riyad Mahrez didn't need it. He obviously then played for another couple of years after that. You know, he was big for us in the Champions League the year after we won the Premier League. He was big there. Everyone knew he was going to leave eventually. It did go on a little bit, and it did end slightly sour because he was sat in an airport on transfer deadline day at one point. And then Man City come calling, and you know they pay. I can't remember how much it was now. I think it was in the 60s, or late 50s, 60s. What he went on to do at Man City, you know, I mean, I know he wasn't a starter for them every single game. A lot of Man City fans actually weren't happy with that. A lot of Man City fans thought he should be starting a lot of games for them. But he continued to score goals, to get assists at Man City. I just, you know, he's one of the, I think, you know, what do they call them? The streets won't forget wingers, I think, in my opinion. And I just think he's Leicester's best ever winger for sure. So yeah, he's in there for me. But I am looking forward to hearing what you've got to say on this one, because you seem quite keen to throw a name in.
This
Rafinha,
is why I want
is
to
it?
make it. This is why I want to make it a negotiation rather than an argument, because I think we can both agree both of these players deserve to be in this team. And I've just had a very quick Google. Both of these players can play on the left.
Well,
I feel
wouldn't say
it
Mahrez could, but
no, but Rafinha can, and I feel like it. If we're talking pure quality, you can't leave out Rafinha, who, after I think 6 months of Premier League football at Leeds United, was in the Brazil squad, found his way in a move to Barcelona, even under Jesse pissing Marsh, managed to save Leeds United from being relegated. And when it comes to loyalty, which we've agreed is a fairly big thing here, Mahrez, you have personally said, was waiting in an airport to move away on a deadline day. Rafinha, when he could have made a move away from Leeds United significantly simpler for himself by downing tools at the end of the season, getting Leeds United relegated and activating a release clause, instead prayed to God, gave his absolute all until the end of the season, and then crawled on his knees the length of the entire pitch because he was so happy that he managed to keep Leeds United up. He has the quality. He has the loyalty. He's still consistently getting picked for the Barcelona side that has someone that is being described as the next Lionel Messi up against him, Lamine Yamal, who is obscenely good. I agree that Riyad Mahrez, very, very, very good. But I don't think you can find it in you to disagree that Rafinha very, very, very good either.
I'm okay with putting Rafinha on the left and Mahrez on the right, because Rafinha, whatever less fans say, Rafinha is much better than Mark Albrighton, who was my other shout for the left wing, or Steve Goppy maybe years ago. But Riyad Mahrez and Rafinha, I mean, are you happy with that? With your two win? Because there's no, you know, Mahrez would deserve to be in this team over Rafinha. Behave. Behave. Don't even. Nah, you can't even say that with absolute. Nah, mate. I'm not having that.
It depends on what you're looking for. Because if you're looking for pure, just gets the job done stuff, maybe probably Mahrez. If you're looking for having fun, it's got to be Rafinha.
Mahrez was very fun.
It was less fun than Rafinha was.
I don't know about that. I don't know. Mahrez did win as a Premier League title, mate.
Plus, you have to remember, we've agreed on a manager here. We've agreed that the manager's Marcelo Bielsa. You've said yourself that Mahrez wasn't that good at the running. Is he? Is he going to be able to keep up at the running? You said. Is he going to be able to keep up with that press? Is he going to be able to go for the full 90, full heavy metal? You didn't need it, but we've agreed. We've agreed that Marcelo Bielsa's managing this side.
Rafinha's on the left. That's all we need to say. We have got both of them in. We have got both of them in. That I don't care what, like, if we were being strict and saying, right, this is the right, Rafinha could only play right wing in this team. There is no chance I would ever concede Riyad Mahrez, by the way. I'm just saying. I mean,
I wouldn't concede Rafinha. So that's why we've made the agreement that one goes on each side. It is.
So, Danny, I wouldn't expect anything. You are a Leeds fan, so that I will take that 1%. If you're only edging it by 1% and you're a Leeds fan, I think that would be, probably on Mahrez's side if you were a neutral. Into midfield, mate. This was a tough one for me to think of, really. Some of the names out there. I mean, personally, I think I could, using your logic, right? Using your logic for what you've used with some of the other players in this team, I could claim both of these spots. I'm not going to. I'm going to be nice to you because I'll hear what you have to say. If I was using some of the logic you've used, I would say N'Golo Kante and Esteban Cambiasso go into this team.
Do they though?
But I'm going to nominate N'Golo Kante. Obviously, there were the three big names of our Premier League winning season were Mahrez, Kante, Vardy. So Kante was instrumental. Obviously, if you take either of them players, those three, out of our team that year, we would not have we would not have won the league. He was instrumental to the way we played. Obviously, he was like playing with. It was like we had not even 12 men. It was like we had 13 men with N'Golo Kante. Yes, he was only here for a year, which is a shame. I don't think it wasn't actually bad blood. It was because he had a release clause. We got ripped off, by the way, £30 million for Kante, which we could have got more for, but it was because of the release clause. And I think from what he went on to do even after Leicester, he won the Premier League twice with Chelsea, I believe, twice or once,
something
twice.
like that. Yeah.
So he's got 3 Premier League trophies. He won a Champions League. He won the World Cup, for Christ's sake. Did they win the Euros as well? Did France win the Euros with Kante? Did they win the? No, they didn't win the Euros, did they? Or did they?
I don't know. I don't think so.
The World Cup was maybe the 2016 World Cup.
Yeah,
it would have been the 2016
probably.
Euros.
We'll say probably.
N'Golo Kante. Before you give me your shout for centre mid, are you happy for me to put Kante in this team?
I don't think I can disagree with Kante. I am firmly disagreeing with Cambiasso on a couple of fronts.
Okay, go on. I mean, I was being slightly satire when I said Cambiasso.
I did think you might be. I did think because we have already set out that having a little bit of loyalty is important, and I feel like 31 appearances before going on a free to Olympiacos doesn't scream loyal.
No, it's because it was Oz. It was Ranieri. Ranieri didn't want Cambiasso. That was the problem. That was why.
On the 21st of July 2015, it was announced that Cambiasso had been offered a new deal by the club, but turned the contract down and would be leaving.
That's not true. It's not. It's bollocks. Is that Wikipedia?
It's Sky Sports.
It's bollocks. I'm telling you, mate.
It's definitely not. It's definitely not.
It's not. Anyway, carry on.
So I've got a lot of potential options for this.
Yeah.
We can go attacking, in which case I am without a doubt going to say Pablo Hernandez, because Pablo was in the same way as I would say Matteo, potentially not the most purely good all the time footballer that you would potentially get, but he was such an integral part to us getting promoted. No one will forget that goal against Swansea because it was colossal and it made a huge difference. Also, quick reply to that comment, would Man City take Rafinha for big money after Leeds win the Prem? If I remember right, they tried to and Chelsea tried to, but Rafinha wanted Barcelona because he's wanted to play there since he was a kid.
Yeah, that Mike. Mike. You're
That's a bit wild. Yeah.
Yeah, Mike. No, because they Barcelona paid big money for him after they didn't even win the Premier League. They just stayed up and they went big money.
Yeah.
For him. So yeah,
we came 17th and they were still like, yes, he's still worth £60 million, and it's like, okay, fantastic.
Well, he kept you in the league. Rafinha, yeah. Let's leave Rafinha. He's in there. He's in there, lad. He's in there, guys. Yeah. I think Pablo Hernandez is a wild claim, by the way. Just saying. I think it is.
That Pablo Hernandez is sort of is our equivalent of the streets won't forget. I would say he's the insane passer, brilliant passing range, fantastic footballer. I got a couple of other shouts. There is an argument for, in terms of longevity, in terms of quality, in terms of still loving the club, despite the fact that he was in that category of players that we had to get rid of earlier than we wanted to because of Ridsdale. There's an argument, I would say, for maybe Milner. But in terms of pure level, I think I want to chuck forward Calvin Phillips because he also fits perfectly into this squad. He's got a fantastic passing range. I know going alongside Kante, and I know that currently he's not fantastic, but I don't think you can ignore the fact that that England get to a final of an international tournament for the first time in forever. And Calvin is not only a fundamental part of that team, he's the player of the tournament and effectively undroppable for a significant period of time afterwards. Based on the back of that competition. That competition, everyone was going into it saying, why have we picked Calvin Phillips? Why are we not playing someone else? Why are we playing Rice and Phillips together? And you come out of that tournament going, oh, I get it. I understand what he does because he wasn't that pure defensive midfielder. He also had fantastic passing range. The first goal we scored that tournament comes from a Calvin Phillips assist. And I feel like if we're not stupid in the final, Calvin Phillips is potentially the reason that we win the Euros. Because that's how good he was in that tournament.
Okay, so I'm going to make a decision here, and you're really not going to like it, mate.
You're going to make a wrong decision. You're going to make a very, very wrong decision.
I think I was expecting you to give me better shouts or options than what you did, if I'm honest, in terms of
better shouts and options than the player that dragged England to the final of the Euros and we only lost because penalties.
I think over Calvin Phillips and Pablo Hernandez, Cambiasso gets in this team.
That is a joke.
Why does Woodgate
get in? That is an absolute joke.
Look at Woodgate's CV and look at Cambiasso's CV, mate. Like, Cambiasso...
You agreed to Woodgate.
Yeah,
you agreed to Woodgate because you forgot
over Wes Morgan. Over Wes Morgan, yes. But Cambiasso, right? 52 appearances, 52 caps for Argentina, 41 for Real Madrid, 315 appearances in that Inter Milan midfield, 41 goals there as well. Yes, he didn't stay longer than one season with Leicester. And even if that story you told that you've read, from Sky, let's say it was true. Woodgate, if we're talking, we spoke about Woodgate and Ferdinand because of obviously their careers after or before, after Leeds. I'm talking about if you look at Cambiasso's career, the player he was. We had him at the end, the latter stages of his career. But Cambiasso is undoubtedly a better player and had a better career than both Pablo Hernandez and Calvin Phillips has so far. For me, I was
clear.
Go on. Yeah.
We've not gone with Ben White because we don't know what his ceiling is.
Yeah.
I mean, using that argument, because we don't know how good Calvin can be.
Yes,
because he's been rotting on that City bench behind Rodri, and let's be honest, let's not complain at the fact that he's not been playing that much over the last 2 years. Because who on the planet gets in a side over Rodri? Nobody.
But
absolutely nobody.
But it's like that.
Cambiasso doesn't get in over Rodri either.
No, he doesn't. Of course he doesn't. But that's like me arguing. I could say Abdul Fatawu instead of Rafinha, because Fatawu could be better than Rafinha, but we don't know. It's impossible to tell right now. Cambiasso, mate, like Pablo Hernandez, best season in a Leeds shirt in the Championship. Calvin Phillips, best season with Leeds, Championship or your first year in the Prem, right? Esteban Cambiasso has done it at the absolute highest level. That wasn't at Leicester. It wasn't at Leicester. It was before Leicester. But then Woodgate went to Real Madrid. Ferdinand's best seasons were after Leeds United. They weren't at Leeds United. They were afterwards. I just think with deservedly, given Ferdinand and Woodgate the positions at centre-back, I think Esteban Cambiasso deserves to be in this team over Pablo Hernandez and Calvin Phillips. If I was talking just about their time at Leicester, I wouldn't have even I wouldn't have nominated Cambiasso. I would have nominated maybe Danny Drinkwater or someone like that, which you would have won. You would have won Calvin Phillips. You would have won with Pablo Hernandez. You would have won with either of them. But Cambiasso is decorated, mate. He is decorated. The number of games he's played at the absolute highest level for Argentina at World Cups as well, Copa Americas, Champions League with Real Madrid, Champions League with Inter Milan. You don't get 315 appearances in Inter Milan's midfield for nothing, mate. You are a very, very, very good footballer. Very good footballer.
1 second. I'm going to have a very, very quick look at that Inter side and see who else makes it in there.
Well, I mean, I think it was 10, 8 years, 9 years, like he was there. So there would have been some very good footballers along the way.
Probably, yeah. I find it really hard to, when you're doing a Leeds and Leicester combined 11, to have someone with a total of 35 appearances for one of the given sides in there. Because, I mean, using that thinking, we could have... I can't remember who we had on loan a long time ago.
Yeah, but Leeds, Ferdinand played 54 games for you.
Yeah, including
54 games.
At least it was more than one season, and it was good Champions League shit that was like actual memories for the club, including, if I remember right, he was part of the semi-final reaching side. And again, with the 30 million quid, played a big old part of making sure that the club didn't go under.
Would you agree Esteban Cambiasso is the better player out of the three, the better footballer out of the three, and the most decorated, and done the most with his career? I know, obviously, Calvin, you can't really call his career yet, but I struggle to understand how
right. The way I'm going to put it is, I would agree that he has had the most decorated career of the three. I would agree that at his peak he was the better player of the three. Probably. I've not seen that much of Cambiasso. But at the same time, I feel like that would be the same as putting Luis Suarez in an all-time MLS 11. Because he's played about a season worth. And I feel like putting him in that 11 feels a little bit wrong.
I think it's the exact same as putting Ferdinand in this 11. The way I see it. Yes, you're saying he did it over 2 years. Was it 2 seasons? I'm guessing he did it over 2 seasons, and there were memories. But I mean, the Great Escape is a very, very, very fond memory of Leicester City fans of our first year back in the Premier League, and I can't remember how many years it was, 12 years or something. Our first year back in the Premier League, looking like we're going to probably go down all season, and then out of nowhere we win 7 out of the last 9 Premier League games. From being bottom at Christmas, we win the last 7 of 9, and Cambiasso was instrumental to that. I'm only using. You might disagree of me comparing the logic. I see it as the same logic as Ferdinand. I really do. I see it. I'm in my head. It's the same logic that Ferdinand played 50-something games for you, but went on to be one of the best centre backs the Premier League's ever seen. Cambiasso was one of the better midfielders in the world in his peak, and then he ended up at Leicester. So I am... Go on.
I'm willing to make a trade with you for the culture, just to sort of bring bring a more sort of holistic vibe. Bring more of a it's actually about the club's vibe. I will swap you whacking in Wes Morgan for Rio Ferdinand if I can have Calvin.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
Deal.
If we've switched up the kind of logic basically that we're using, yeah, that's what you mean, right? So we're gonna say, for what they did at the actual club.
Yeah, well,
you want Phillips over Hernandez? I'll give you either if we're going with this logic now. I'll give you either.
Okay, having got a specific memory in my head as an absolute banger, as perfection as what it is to be a Leeds player.
Yeah.
The fact that Calvin scored our centenary goal at home as someone that came through our academy. I'm going Calvin. And admittedly, maybe, yeah, Bowie was potentially a better player, but as someone that didn't experience that, I think the fact that Calvin was such an integral part of that Bielsa side as well adds to it, in that, like, there's more of that emotional connection there, I think.
Okay, right. I think that was a good trade. I think that's a fair trade. Because I think we found a middle ground. I think if we were going with the logic that used Ferdinand, I think Cambiasso should have been in there, but we've kind of switched it up and we've said, you know what, actually, if we base it more on what they did for the club, Wes Morgan probably does deserve to be in there over Ferdinand, and Phillips deserves to be in there over Cambiasso. That takes us to the striker position. The two we've gone with two up top. Now
we have because I know for a fact you're going to put one striker in there, and I kind of want to at least have a discussion on another one.
Well, look, there's a debate to be had. There's more of a debate. I mean, we were having a debate. There's more of a debate to be had if we go all time, right? But we're going from 2000. This man gets in, no question on this. You won't even argue with me on this one. Right. Let's go in chronological order, right? The record transfer fee for a non-league player, £1 million at the time. It was called crazy. It was called ludicrous. Championship. He nearly quit football, by the way, in his first season because he was drinking a lot and he wasn't healing. His injuries weren't healing and stuff like this. But then he became a championship winner. He then got an England call-up in the Great Escape season, his first one. He then won the Premier League. He won the Football Writers Player of the Season. He won a Golden Boot. He scored in a Champions League quarterfinal. He won a Golden Boot. He won the FA Cup. He won the Community Shield. He then got relegated from the Premier League and then was a big part in his coming back up when we needed him the most because he scored a lot of goals in the latter stages of the season. This season just gone. 20 goals in the Championship is mental for a 37-year-old. I think it might have been in all competitions, actually, 20 goals. His best goals to game ratio or goals per minute ratio of his whole career this season. He's a freak. Leicester fans see him as a freak, but he is the Leicester City greatest. He's the GOAT. He's the Leicester City GOAT in terms of everything, in terms of the goals scored, in terms of the loyalty, the trophies, the memories, the shithousery, one of the biggest shithouses that football's ever seen. Jamie Vardy is going into this team. And then, mate, if you want to start giving me your nominations or nomination, whatever, for the next position, then feel free to go for it.
Now,
I think this is tough for you, mate. I mean, there's one I can think of, or there's two I can think of, but I'm looking forward to hearing it from you.
I've got a list of a good few, and I'm just trying to think of which ones to put most of my oomph behind. Danny's got two of the 3 or 4 that I'm going to make a shout for.
If you meet in the middle, go Beckford. Now go for it, mate. Go on. Let me hear your names.
So if we're talking pure quality, I was going to put Viduka on there because without a doubt, incredible finisher, fantastic. Might not be the best movement. He's a bit Pirou-y like that.
Yep.
But put him in front of a goal. he'll fire it home without a doubt.
Mhm.
From a personal point of view, in terms of strikers that I've got a connection with, I kind of want to go Bamford, but I know that that's not going to be a popular one, so I'm not going to do that. The argument that I always make is he's had
I
one
wouldn't
fit.
have allowed. I wouldn't have allowed.
I
Bamford.
wouldn't go for it, but I mean, he had one fit season in the Premier League, and he was the top. He was the fourth top scorer behind Son, Kane, Salah. That ain't bad. And the other two options were going to be Jermaine Beckford, because great finisher, consistently at Leeds, still comes back very clearly a Leeds fan, is just good to have around. And potentially Luciano Becchio, because he's in the similar spot of he still supports Leeds. He doesn't speak the best English, so you're not going to see him being a pundit on everything.
He was great. He was.
But
I used to like watching
top quality. Becchio was such fun, and I think I'm going to land between Beckford and Becchio, and I can't quite work out which I want to get behind more, because they're both in the category of they were comfortably too good for Leeds when we were in League One, and then they were too good for Leeds when we were in the Championship. Beckford literally stayed with us so he could get us promoted, and then he moved on, which fair enough. In terms of loyalty to a club, if you are significantly better than a football side, this is in the same realm as a Rafinha. If you're way better than a football side, the best you can do is do your job and then agree on positive terms to leave said club, where everyone wins and everyone's happy. And this as well, they both came from non-league football. If we're talking non-league footballers that turned out real good, I think Beckford is also part of that conversation. Not on the same level as Jamie Vardy, obviously, but I think he's in that same discussion. And in terms of like from the cultural perspective as well, and in terms of songs that get sung about, goals that get sung about, sorry, Beckford, when we were a League One club, slots home a cool, calm, collected finish against Manchester United in front of the Stretford end to knock them out of the FA Cup in the third round. And any match-going Leeds fan remembers the date of that goal, because that was huge.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw it all behind Jermaine Beckford, because I think it just works. And maybe at the top of his game, he wasn't quite at the same level as some of the other strikers that we can put into this conversation. But from every other perspective that we're looking at this, it's really hard to look past him.
Yeah, I was just looking, mate. I mean, 71 goals in 126 games for Leeds, which is a quality record. And do you remember his goal for Everton? Do you remember that one? Or was it not? Sorry. Yeah, it was his goal for Everton. Who would, do you remember in the Premier League? I can't remember who it was against. It was ran from his own half. Oh, what a goal that was. He scored a hat-trick for Leicester as well against Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup, which was scenes. Good memories there. It might have been Villa. I want to say Villa.
It's not just his own half. He picks the ball up on the edge of the box.
Yeah.
And just goes. Chelsea.
There you go.
And dinks the keeper.
Even better. My other shout for this position would have been Emil Heskey. That's not a joke. He left Leicester in 2000, so he just meets the threshold. 100 Leicester lad, Leicester born and bred, came through the academy. I went to a Leicester Legends evening recently, and it was funny listening to the stories. Martin O'Neill was there, and he was talking about how he's never seen someone with the body of Heskey. When he was like 16 years old, he looked like he did now. Like he was just unbelievable. And I mean, the pace, 40 goals, but he did play a lot of his time on the wing as well. Actually, it wasn't just up front. Martin O'Neill used to play him out wide, so that's probably why he didn't end up on as many goals at Leicester as he probably should have. Went to Liverpool, obviously 150 games for Liverpool, and then he kind of went into a bit of a journeyman, didn't he? Birmingham and Wigan and Villa and Bolton.
And for some reason,
62
Newcastle
caps.
Jets.
Yeah. 62 caps for England as well, which is good going. 7 goals. So It's a tough one. I think I'll give you Beckford. I think probably because he's a Leicester player as well. So I'll probably give you Jermaine.
I'll admit
Beckford.
that does slightly help my argument. Yeah,
I just think Heskey did it in the Premier League and played a lot for England. So I think I would say Heskey was actually the better player out of the two.
I'd say
but
mechanically he was better, but culturally it's got to be Beckford.
well, I think as well it's also because Heskey, is close that he shouldn't even meet the threshold in terms of because he left in 2000, so he didn't really do it after 2000, did he? So he probably only scored 5 goals or something in 2000. So I'm happy to give you Beckford because I actually didn't realize he scored that many goals for Leeds, to be honest with you. I knew he played for Leeds.
He was huge for us over that period.
Yeah. I knew he played for you, and I always liked him. A lot of Leicester fans don't like him because he doesn't really like Leicester. He's obviously big Leeds supporter nowadays, and I don't think he looks back on his time at Leicester that fondly. I mean, he didn't score too many goals for us. I think it was 9 goals, but 3 of that was in an FA Cup. So just because he played for Leicester, the number of goals he scored for you, and also because he scored a hat-trick against Nottingham Forest, I will give it to Jermaine Beckford. Now, there is our finished team. Martin, Ricardo, Wes Morgan, Jonathan Woodgate, Dominic Matteo, Riyad Mahrez, N'Golo Kante, Calvin Phillips, Rafinha, Jamie Vardy, and Jermaine Beckford. I think that's a pretty solid team, mate. I think I don't think that team wins the Premier League. I don't think that team wins the Premier League.
I think at its peak, it's not got the worst chance.
Each player in their peak, maybe we'd probably have a better chance if Ferdinand was there. To be honest with you, a better chance to win the Premier League. But because I mean, who in their peak? Who's the best player there? It's Rio Ferdinand, right? Oh, he's not there. Sorry, he's not there. Of course, he's not. It's a tough one then. In their absolute peak, I would say it's N'Golo Kante.
Probably, yeah. It's hard to argue with a World Cup.
Yeah, it is. It is. Who would you take out now? If you could, it would be Wes Morgan for Rio. I'm guessing for you, that's who you'd take out.
Yeah, it's quite hard to look at this side and go Wes Morgan fits. I mean, it's the same argument that I've made on the Beckford. I absolutely see it from the sort of fan perspective, but in I don't know, probably Wes Morgan would be the one that I'd swap out.
Curtis Knott says he would take out Vardy. That's ludicrous. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I'm guessing you're joking, Curtis. Yeah.
To put in Patrick Bamford.
I think we've been fair with the team in terms of because obviously we did make a change, taking so that you could get Phillips in and I could get Morgan in, because I would have had Cambiasso. I think if I could I would switch. I would actually go with what we did before. That's what I would do. I would have Rio in there, and I would have Cambiasso in midfield. However, it is hard to argue with this. I mean, we applied the same logic, and I think with that logic, Morgan deserved to be there, and Phillips deserved to be there. Curtis says I wouldn't take out Vardy. I said he's the best player there, in my opinion. Yeah, maybe not. But yeah, I'm happy with that team, mate. Led by Marcelo Bielsa. How do you think some of those Leicester players would have got on under Marcelo Bielsa?
Yeah.
I think he would have loved Jamie Vardy, mate. He would have loved Jamie Vardy.
See, I've not watched that much Jamie Vardy, but as far as I've seen him, he tends to be someone that gets on the end of moves rather than doing the heavy link-up stuff. That's why Bielsa loved Bamford so much.
Well, true.
Because he does the sort of connective bits.
I was thinking more of the freakish, just energy, and just he's crazy.
That'd help. If you could teach Vardy to do passing triangles, then it'd be fine.
He's done it more recently, to be fair. He has done it more recently. Yeah. In
terms of the rest of the side, I don't know how Wes Morgan does in a Bielsa side. I'll be honest with you.
But is Wes Morgan and he's you know, Bielsa did have to deal with Liam Cooper.
Yeah, but Liam Cooper could do more running than Wes Morgan, I think.
Yeah,
Wes Morgan feels a bit more positionally intelligent, whereas
Wes
Cooper
Morgan
is...
at 23 might have been all right.
maybe. But then again, the entire formation doesn't work because it's not one that Bielsa would play with. So who knows?
True. We've gone with the most famous Leeds manager with the most famous Leicester formation in terms of the formation we were most successful under, and then we've gone for, let's have a look. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 Leicester players, 6 Leeds players. Yeah, I think Martin's debatable, but we've already decided. I think we've already decided the team.
We've gone with it. Although to be fair, if we would have said Schmeichel, then that's both sides getting one player anyway. So
true. Yeah, we should have done that because of Beck.
But we've not.
Anyway.
So it's a win.
Oh yeah, I could class Leicester with 6 players because of Beckford.
I thought you said you lot didn't like him very much.
Well, I liked him, so that's what that matters. I liked him. Anyway, right. That's it. That's the team. That's the team we've gone with. As Joe said before at the start of the video, go check out his channel, Joe Blackburn. He'll have content coming up and stuff. And obviously, if we are in the Premier League, if they are in the Premier League next season, then you'll be seeing a lot more of Joe next season, hopefully. I'll have to split the... Maybe I take Joe for the home game and the other Joe for the away game. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Much appreciated. Thanks for getting your comments in. And yeah, obviously, hope you like our combined 11. But I'll be back tomorrow. What day is it? Wednesday. I'll be back tomorrow at 6:30 anyway for Fox's Focus show, and yeah, we'll talk about something. I don't know what yet. Probably just again transfers that aren't going to happen. So. Yeah, cheers all. Thanks again. And as always, come on, you Foxes.
Thanks for watching Leicester Fan TV. Thanks to our sponsors, Everod's, Barlow Blinds, Poker Pies, Pink Car Leasing, Distillers Direct, Hologram, Take Me, Nubian Cow, The Fox's Arms and Rainbows. Run by the fans, for the fans. Follow us on socials at Leicester Fan TV.